Let's now bring you your top stories on The Brief. What a day it will turn out to be today as members of the Nigerian Labour Congress are converging at the Labour House in the nation's capital, Abuja, while other members across the state are expected to meet by, 7:30 a.m. at the NLC State Secretariat for today's nationwide protest against economic hardship and what the NLC calls the non-implementation of the 16-point agreement reached with the federal government on October the 2nd, 2023. Well, a last gasp attempt by the federal government last night, actually late into the night, to persuade Labour, particularly the NLC, actually ended without an agreement. The meeting, which was hosted by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Mr. George Akume, with other government representatives had in attendance leaders of the NLC and the TUC, with the NLC President Joe Ajaero insisting that the protest will go ahead. But the protest will not be happening with the full strength of organized labor, as the leadership of the Trade Union Congress says it will not be a part of the planned rally because it was not part of the meeting where the resolution to embark on a strike was taken. Now, the president of the union, Mr. Festus Osifo, told journalists at a news conference in Abuja that instead of a protest, the Congress will be engaging the federal government on the implementation of the 15 solutions which its members have outlined to address the current high cost of living.
I know a lot of you've read the letter that was leaked. The letter was actually meant for TUC members, but it found its way to the press. Unfortunately, really regrettably. But I think you've read that letter. And I think it was very clearly stated in the letter. I think the reasons are clearly stated. So, we were not part of the process ab initio. We were not part of the agreement ab initio. So there is nothing to opt out from at all. Like as I have said repeatedly, that in trade union movement, you have a toolbox. That in that toolbox, you have different tools that you could use in calling government to order. The monetary policy managers should determine the true value of Naira. This can be easily implemented by CBN, who are the managers of our monetary policy, by directing banks to reject dollar bid above the threshold of 580 Naira to 650 Naira.
Live reporting of the protests across the country. Well, earlier on, the presidency had actually appealed to the Nigerian Labour Congress to shelve its planned nationwide protest. The Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, who was speaking after the Federal Executive Council meeting, said that the federal government had fulfilled almost all the demands put forward by the labor union. We'll take a listen to the minister.
All the 15 points that were agreed upon with Labour in the last quarter of last year, in October last year, they have almost all been fulfilled. Over 80% compliance by the federal government. And so that is why government sometimes is baffled about the need for the Nigerian Labour Congress to think that it is appropriate for it to embark on a strike at this point. Federal government keeps calling on them, and we are not going to relent in drawing their attention to the need for them to see reason with government. While government is going through, and Nigeria is going through challenges of the moment, we don't think that it is the right time for Labour to embark on any kind of protest or whatsoever. Every point that they had laid down in the conversations or discussions we have had with them have been made. Except those ones that you cannot just buy off the shelf. For example, the issue of the CNG. So we are calling on the Nigerian Labour Congress to see reason. And we are also thanking other affiliates, organized labor, the TUC, and about 65 other organizations who are seeing things the way that the federal government is seeing by asking them, by saying they are not going to join the Nigerian Labour Congress.
But that's not all. Other Nigerians have actually been taking that initiative without waiting for Labour to make a case for improved economic conditions. From Edo State, where a coalition of civil society organizations embarked on a peaceful protest asking government to address the high cost of living in the country, to Osun State, where we also saw some CSOs expressing their grievances on the current economic hardship. Well, Lagos State was actually not left behind in all of this, as protesters also gathered under the Ojuelegba Bridge to vent their displeasure on the high cost of living in the country. Well, let's move on now. Finally, what you could call a green light has been given for the implementation of the much talked about Oronsaye report, albeit partially, as the Federal Executive Council has given a 12-week ultimatum for the merging of some parastatal agencies and commissions, while others will be subsumed, scrapped, or relocated. Well, this, according to the Special Advisor to the President on Policy Coordination, Ms. Rizabala Usman, is in line with the needs to reduce cost of governance and streamline efficiency across the governance value chain. Now, for context, the Oronsaye report was submitted in 2012 to the Jonathan administration. Then in 2014, the Jonathan government released a white paper on that report. Well, the Buhari administration, after re-examining the white paper, also released a second white paper in August 2022, but did not implement it. But let's walk you through the list of some of the organizations affected and what this is about to do.
Our administration has taken a very bold step towards implementation on aspects of the Oronsaye panel report, which speaks to mergers, subsuming, scrapping, and relocation of parastatals, agencies, and commissions of federal government. This is in line with the need to reduce cost of governance and ensure that we have streamlined efficiency across the governance value chain. For agencies that are required to be merged, I'll take it. National Agency for Control of AIDS, HIV/AIDS, NACA, to be merged with the Center for Disease Control in the Federal Ministry of Health. National Emergency Management Agency to be merged with the National Commission for Refugee Migration and Internally Displaced Persons. The Directorate of Technical Cooperation in Africa to be merged with the Directorate of Technical Aid and to function as a department in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This compact with Nigeria Servicom to be subsumed to function as a department under the Bureau for Public Service Reform. The Border Communities Development Agency to be subsumed to function as a department under the National Boundary Commission. The National Salaries, Income and Wages Commission to be subsumed into the Revenue Mobilization and Fiscal Allocation Commission. The National Blood Service Commission to be converted into an agency and relocated to the Federal Ministry of Health. The Nigerian Diaspora Commission to be converted into an agency and to be relocated to the Federal Ministry of Finance.
By the way, the FEC says that those changes will not lead to staff disengagement. That has also been in the mix. Meanwhile, the Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister of Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, says that the FEC has also approved the immediate restart of the direct payments to 12 million households, comprising 60 million Nigerians.
The key recommendation of the panel was that, especially given the heightened, limited household purchasing power at this time of rising prices, particularly elevated food prices, it's important to restart the program. So the direct payments to households, direct payments to 12 million households comprising 60 million Nigerians is to resume immediately with the proviso, with the important proviso that every beneficiary will be identified by their NIN, National Identity Number, and their BVN, Bank Verification Number. I think it became obvious that the payments were not going as originally envisaged. The idea was, and it remains, that payments are made, and the payments were meant to be verified, and the register was meant to be one that had the integrity between the name on the register and the name that eventually got the funds, and it was meant to be individual payments. That was not the case.
Moving now to security. No fewer than 40 kidnap victims have been successfully rescued from kidnappers' enclave in Gongomaliki Mountain, located in Yoro local government area of Taraba State. Now, their rescue is essentially sequel to a joint effort between the police, professional hunters, and vigilante groups who acted on intelligence gathering. So, Cherry News on that front, particularly when it comes to security in Taraba State. But let's head over to the courts now, where the Ezendigo of Ajawa State in Lagos, Frederick Nwajagu, who is charged with terrorism offenses, has told the Lagos High Court sitting in Tafawa Balewa Square, Lagos Island, that he did not know that there was a law prohibiting a person from mentioning the indigenous people of Biafra. That's IPOB. Now, he said this while giving evidence before trial judge Justice Yetunde Adesoya yesterday. Nwajagu, who's standing trial on a 9-count charge bordering on attempt to commit acts of terrorism, financing terrorism, participating in terrorism, and meeting to support a prescribed entity, said that yesterday at the resumed hearing, gave evidence actually while being led by his counsel, Mr. Mefo Atudo, where he told the court that he had never referred to himself as a king, but a leader of the Igbo-speaking people in Ajawa State. Now, after listening to the argument on bail application, Justice Adesoya adjourned until March 26 for ruling on the bail application. So I will follow that story. But away from that to business now, it is decision day for the Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee, that's the MPC, as it will hold whether it will hold the interest rate or hike it, as some analysts have projected. That's a big question on the minds of Nigerians. Now, the MPC actually kicked off its 2-day meeting yesterday amid skyrocketing inflation and weakening naira, marking the first time actually that the MPC will meet since the CBN governor, that's Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, assumed office in October last year. Now, the MPC is also expected to focus on several key considerations, including evaluating the disinflation trends observed in advanced economies and monitoring the measures implemented by global monetary authorities. Recall that at its last meeting held in July 2023, the committee pegged the benchmark interest rate at 18.75%. Let's talk sports now. Well, Cherry News, particularly for the Super Falcons of Nigeria. They're now through to the final round of the qualifiers for the 2024 Paris Olympics Games. So just one game separates them from yet another Olympics. The Falcons defeated the indomitable Lionesses of Cameroon 1-0 at the MKO Abiola Stadium in Abuja to go through on 1-0 aggregate after a goalless draw in Cameroon last week. Esther Okoronko actually scored the only goal of the match in the 14th minute. And Nigeria will now face the winner between South Africa or Tanzania for one of the 2 tickets in April.
Weren't creating those chances, I would have a real concern. I think when you get into tight matches like this, you see it at every level. You know, chances were created yesterday with Liverpool and Chelsea, and they weren't finished, and it ends up game. So, you know.
So excited about that for our girls. Wish them the very best. But that's not all making the rounds this morning. Sweden has actually cleared its final obstacle to joining NATO after Hungary's parliament ratified the bid in what Sweden's prime minister called a historic day, while other alliance members expressed relief at the move spurred by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Well, NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg said that Sweden would make the alliance stronger and safer, while the United States, which is the main alliance power, as well as Britain and Germany, welcome Sweden's now imminent accession. Germany Chancellor Olaf Scholz said that having Sweden in NATO strengthens its defense alliance and with its security of Europe and the world. Russia's invasion 2 years ago prompted Sweden and neighboring Finland to apply to join the transatlantic bloc, ending their long-standing stance of non-alignment. So those are the major stories making rounds, and they will shape the conversation today and in the coming days.